Hello! Welcome to our first episode of Teatime Medchats. You're currently with Richard. I'm an MD, I was an MD4 student this year, but I recently graduated, so I'm going to be an intern at Alfred Health, thank you, in South Yarra next year.
And my name is Minji, and I was an MD3 student this year, so that's third year medicine, and then we'll be moving on to MD4 next year.
Yes. Now obviously this is a tea time episode, so I am having a delicious pu'er tea from, I don't know, pu'er.
What? I've never heard of that.
Well anyway, it's green tea from China and it's really tasty. What are you having, Minji?
It's called like 17 tea, anyways.
Yes, anyways. So over the course of this series we will be talking about everything related to medicine. But today specifically we're going to be talking about MD1. So we're going to be diving into what you should expect, how you can best study for it, what you need to buy, everything. First of all, just some disclaimers. So these opinions are exactly that. They're just subjective feelings of our own. We're not supported by any company or any group. And if you do have conflicting information from another more official source, such as the official university guidelines, then please do follow that rather than listening to us. So what is MD1? Basically, MD1 is a preclinical year. So what that means is you will be doing a lot of book learning, a lot of academic content learning, and clinical starts from MD2, MD3 and MD4. And what that means is you'll be going into hospitals, going into GP clinics and actually interacting with patients, and you'll be putting the academic knowledge you've learned to the test.
Yep, that's exactly right. So MD1 there'll be a lot of lectures, like a lot more than MD2, 3 or 4 will receive.
But as Minji said, it's a lot of content and it's generally structured in blocks. So for example, there's the cardiovascular block, there's the renal block, the respiratory block, neurological block. So we kind of go through all the different systems in the human body, all the disease processes, things like immunology, infectious diseases. So it's kind of a synthesis of everything related to med. So it can be very overwhelming in terms of the content.
So in terms of assessments of MD1, they'll be focused on the lecture content, what you learn in tutorials, whatever, like webinars or whatever you call them, and everything that you learn throughout your classes are examinable. So it's not just the lectures, it's actually everything.
Yeah, learning objectives are really good, and you can kind of make almost like a spreadsheet of learning objectives, and you can tick things as you go along. So I would say at the very start of the year, just looking longitudinally, thinking about all the things that you're going to learn, actually like putting it in a visual map or like some sort of Excel spreadsheet, and you can track and pace yourself as you go. That'll help you spread things out and really learn things in a really systematic way.
And then the assessments for my year level were mainly MCQs, so multiple choice questions. And then at the end of the year, we also had an OSCE. You
talk to an actor who pretends to be a patient, and you ask them a series of questions. So you're kind of being a detective, and you try and work out what they have. So someone might come in and say, "I'm Bill, I'm a 38-year-old man, and I've come in with chest pain." And you, the student, will ask a series of questions like, how bad is it, where is it? And eventually you'll work out, oh, they're having a heart attack. And that is essentially an OSCE. Okay, so now to the big thing that a lot of you might be wondering about, how to actually study for MD1. Minji, how did you best study for MD1? What tips and tricks have you got?
My tip is that revision is actually very, very important, because end of the year exams, they're basically like testing you on everything you've learned throughout the entire year. So you can't just rely on short-term memory.
It's uncrammable. You can't cram medicine.
I don't think you can. Then even if you do cram, like you'll need it for the rest of your life. So what I found really helpful was this thing called Enki. So it's a software that you download for free, and you basically make flashcards yourself.
What Enki helps you do is that it's very good for spaced repetition. So for example, you create your own flashcard, like what are differentials for chest pain, and then you answer it yourself. And if you get it, if you do a really good job, then you might just leave it for 4 days later. if you do a bad job, you might say, okay, I might repeat this card today even. And you can set your own timings and intervals, so it's very flexible. And it's just very, very good for like hard baking knowledge and rote learning.
It's only really helpful if you do it every day. And I only learned that this year, so.
But it's important to know that Anki is really good for academic clinical knowledge, but you can't use Anki for helping you practice, talking to a patient, how to actually listen to the heart sounds, how to listen for a murmur, how to test the cranial nerves, that sort of thing. So that requires a whole different form of study.
Yeah, so after doing like Anki myself, I find it really helpful to like practice like history taking with a friend. So that's practicing and preparing you for OSCEs. And then this actually like solidifies your knowledge. And resources are really good too. But for MD1, I didn't really use the resources because the lectures were already like quite like demanding and quite enough themselves. I use the resources more when I went to like MD2 and 3.
But if you think that it will help, then you can. So Amboss is an American website in which you do need to pay for a subscription to access their resources. I really like Amboss, to be honest. I do really like Amboss because it gives you everything that you need. You can just type in a condition like meningitis. It'll tell you the definition. It'll tell you how it presents, signs and symptoms. It'll tell you what investigations to conduct and how to manage. And it's just so well visualized and so well thought out.
So I use Amboss the most of all the other resources.
I used BMJ quite a lot. BMJ also lays out things really systematically, starting off with definition, diagnosis, all the way to management. Yeah, I really like BMJ, and I think I used it just as much as Amboss. So BMJ is really good.
Other ones I've seen like other people use quite well is Osmosis, which is like short clip on, I think there are some on YouTube as well. And then just type in a condition, and then it's like a 10-minute or so video about the condition, and it's really visual, and it's like really cute diagrams as well, so it's quite fun to watch.
Another one that I really like is called Geeky Medics. Which is a website, I think it's British. And the good thing about Geeky Medics is they have, it's not so much as like academic content, it's more for principles of clinical practice. So they'll show you exactly how to take the perfect chest pain history, the perfect cardiac examination, and they even like cannulate like real people and everything. So it's really, really good. I love Geeky Medics. They're on YouTube, they have their own website. Please consult them heaps. UpToDate is also really popular, but the thing to be wary about with UpToDate isn't that it's not very user-friendly. Like it doesn't look pretty.
And it's very complex. Like I still don't use it.
Yeah, it's good if you really wanted to learn something just like very, very thoroughly. Because it's just like a wall of text and you just need to sit there and read it. So it's not, I'd say it's probably not that important for MD1, to be honest.
Not yet.
Not yet.
In terms of taking notes on lecture slides, I used OneNote a lot. So I downloaded the PDF or whatever, the online version of the slides, and then just inputted that onto OneNote, and you're able to just type quickly or just like draw something, and you're able to share that with your friends as well. So yeah, you can see like other people's notes too.
I really love OneNote. I love the combination of OneNote and Anki. I love it so much. And I would recommend it. I love you more.
Our next section, so we'll talk about what to buy for MD1, my favorite part. Why?
Why is it your favorite part?
Because
Spending money.
Because you get to like actually buy your own stethoscope, and how exciting is that?
Yeah, so most people will have a Littmann.
Yeah.
So the University of Melbourne normally has a partnership with MedShop.
Oh.
Yeah, so ask your university, like, what do you call it, society, and they might give you a discount code. Okay, a lot of people will be tossing up between a Littmann Cardiology, an advanced one, versus a Littmann Classic. So both of us have had experiences with Littmann Classics, and my opinion is that they do suffice because you are just a medical student. Well, not just a medical student, but you're just like starting out, so you don't really need the most advanced one. You can see it as a long-term investment, and there's certainly no harm in getting one if it's in your means, but I can still hear murmurs fine with the classic, to be honest.
In addition to the stethoscope, it's good to buy, well, you have to buy a tendon hammer. So that's like a little like hammer thing, and then it's to produce reflexes. So first of all, extracurricular activities of med school. So there are heaps of different like societies and like clubs that med students are part of. And I really like them. Like,
there are so many.
yeah.
There's like the medical school orchestra. There's WEAMS, which is the Wilderness Medicine Student Society or something.
Oh yeah, so that's like hiking, and there's like one for every like specialty. So like one for like psychiatry, one for like gastro. You basically like apply to like any of the ones that you're interested in. There are heaps of events that you can go to. Events as in like different like talks or Zoom lectures, or like workshops, in-person workshops, that kind of stuff.
And don't forget, there's so many other non-medical societies as well. You know, there's the chocolate tasting society, there's like the French club, and it's good to take advantage of these when you're still on campus. And there's also a subject which some of you might be wondering about called the MD Student Conference. But it's essentially a 4-day intensive in which everyone gets together in one location and hears speakers talk at various talks and symposia about all these biopsychosocial things related to medicine. So I think it's really important to remember that medicine is such a long journey and you just can't burn yourself out now. So I think it's just really important to know that you are just at the beginning of your journey. You're just here to learn and keep growing and developing and maturing. So don't place such an enormous amount of pressure on yourself to perform that you just explode and burn out and you don't have anything left in the tank. Have a good idea of what your priorities in life are. So what balance means to you, what you really don't want to lose, what hobbies you want to keep, and just finding like a really good sustainable rhythm. I think that's so underrated and something that requires actually a lot of active thought and effort to actually cultivate and construct. So just to summarize, where should you be at the end of MD1? So first of all, have a pretty good foundation for clinical knowledge so that when they start talking about osteoarthritis and how to manage it, you're not completely lost. You do have an understanding of what kind of drives these things and the basics. So that's one thing. And the second thing I would say is kind of what talking to a patient entails, how to take a good history and how to take a good examination. And then of course you'll build on these skills after each year level.
And another thing would be like actually to know what your study methods are. The way I studied in biomedicine wasn't enough. It couldn't follow up with the medicine course, so I had to change a bit. So it's really good to like know what works for you and what doesn't. So that's all for now, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, see you next
Bye-bye.
time, guys.